Good. In other words, when your troops are off the border,
In other words, Private Parole, you retreated.
In other words, turning your daddy into a CIA.
In other words, the man who killed Rawlins.
Possible. In other words, it's possible the fail-safe...
In other words,
In other words, are the guerrillas still fighting?
In other words, you want me to leave the building? In other words, you don't care what I do or who I fuck or anything.
Captain Smith, in other words, there aren't enough lifeboats for the men.
We signed the treaty, then I removed my troops from the border.
Good. In other words, when your troops are off the border, I sign.
That's all right.
Very good.
Huh? Oh, just a moment.
I went back, sir. In other words, Private Parole, you retreated. Yes, sir.
I write. In other words, turning your daddy into a CIA informant.
Wait, that's it?
That's it, bro.
In other words, the man who killed Rawlins and the man who shot at Jones and Brennan.
They do that. Is it customary?
No, sir, but it's possible.
In other words, it's possible the fail-safe mechanism might be giving them a go signal at the same time they...
Using Katrina and 9/11 to set up refugee camps or detention camps. In other words, concentration camps, because who cares about the...
Control the northern provinces. In other words, are the guerrillas still fighting?
Perhaps. For once.
All permitted on our premises. Yeah. In other words, you want me to leave the building?
I don't feel anything.
In other words, you don't care what I do or who I fuck or anything,
It was in time. Captain Smith, in other words, there aren't enough lifeboats for the men.
There wasn't any card. In other words, you don't intend to tell me. Mother, I don't want to be
yeah, that's the one.
In other words, you have no orders whatsoever.
Only a desire.
Yeah.
And look, Christian,
So in other words, you helped improve the machines that are killing us.
Is paralyzed to the right side partly. In other words, your father is nearly helpless.
I die.
He might...
Yeah.
In other words, you're not interested in him, but you could be interested in somebody.
Jake, don't start, huh? The machine will come back with a brief phrase or please express it in other words.
So what do you want to feed in?
now you have what we can call a roving commission. In other words, you can exercise your own judgment, but within certain limits, of course.
Good. Lustful. In other words, the hot's for me. Exactly.
Unofficially is a favor to us. In other words, he's here and he's not here. So I take it you see...
In other words, self-sufficiency and self-management.
They were Clarence Darrow, Emile Zola. In other words, I've waited for this moment all of my life. Stand like I am right now in front of a jury of 12 good people.
It's high-minded, but I think it's fair-minded. In other words, it's got something in it to offend everyone. If you want to follow along with me, we'll be...
It's so funny.
In other words, you're a spectator.
About you?
DT.
Defense.
C5 gonna go. In other words, if at one truck at some C5, how bad would that be taken?
The best team.
So in other words, Winston, you got me all the way down to Kent to tell me you wish to continue.
Beautiful.
Very clear connection between dreamers whilst actually accelerating brain function. In other words, it gives us more time on each level. Brain function in the dream will be about 20 times normal.
His beloved son to him. In other words, in spite of millennia of efforts, we have not succeeded to create...
Should be kept within all magic families. In other words, purebloods. Unable to sway the others, you just...
I see. So, in other words, you would rather talk to yourself than talk to me.
No.
With a distinct state of its environment. In other words, the object in question would be both in and out of phase with multiple parallels.
An easier withdrawal for the group if successful.
In other words, what you're saying is we can make a platoon sound and look like a regiment.
Along with some other byproducts. In other words, lots of good expanding gases. Should make an excellent.
Agree with me? Yes. In other words, you think that he'd be prepared to enter into negotiations if the price were right?
Oh, he'd be a fool not to.
Yes, as only 99.4%. In other words, that's roughly one flight in every 200 will fail.
Each shall seek his own kind. In other words, a bird may love a fish. But where would they build a home together?
You said this is dated May. In other words, the moment Thomas knew the cup was a bribe, he dropped it into the nearest gutter.
The housing market until the mortgages fail? In other words, we lose millions
until something that's never happened before happens?
Larry, I mean, and it's a pass.
In other words, you fucked us.
Let's not cast stones at one another, my boy.
Now unwinnable. In other words, it's a huge shit sandwich and we're all gonna have to...
People which of course means be nothing to no one. In other words, getting himself re-elected. Give me a hand.
Too hard, you kill someone. Too soft, it's a love tap. In other words, you have to know how to punch.
I was in prison for 3 years. I know how to punch.
Show me.
Merely that we like to check and recheck such data. In other words, your services were never at any time indispensable.
Ah, come on.